base model M1 iMac has been my daily driver over the last few weeks. Here is my full review. Alright, so first let's talk about the build. The front is all glass, which looks and feels great. And though it does mean that you attract a lot of fingerprints, you can't actually see them in use, so it's not that bothersome. On the bottom of the stand, there's no rubber, which allows it to move freely, which is actually really useful. The screen itself is also able to tilt a fair amount. It's nothing crazy, but the hinge does feel really secure and really smooth. The power cable is also really high quality, and the way that it clicks in is pretty cool. It's not really memorable once it's set up, but it's good peace of mind. Next, let's talk about the design. Now, I know this has been kind of controversial, and I've even been going back and forth on it, but overall, I've come to the conclusion that it is a really clean and modern looking design. See, the good thing about it is that it's really good, but it also remains iconic. You know exactly what device this is. There's no comparison. Honestly, in my opinion, I think the back of the device actually looks better than the front, but that might just be because I'm so used to the front. Also, the chin is really exaggerated in video, maybe even my video, but in real life, it's honestly not that bad. Next up, let's talk about the screen. So the iMac screen is 24 inches, and this is a really good size. It's not too big that it takes up your entire desk space, but it's also not too small and you have a lot of room to work with. The screen also gets extremely bright. It gets up to 500 nits, and because I work right in front of a window, I have no problem looking at the screen even when the sun is pretty much directly in my face. It's pretty awesome. Now, the white bezels, another controversial thing, and another thing that I've gone back and forth on, and ultimately, here's what I think. Now, to preface, I have a white room, so because of that, it's not terrible, and it fits the vibe and aesthetic pretty well. I've seen a lot of people use the rationale that this is supposed to feel like an at-home computer and not really like a, professional monster or stuff like that. And it definitely fits the aesthetic of that. Something that's comforting, not necessarily powerful. But we'll definitely get to power in a little bit. Next up, let's talk about the peripherals, the mouse and the keyboard. So the keyboard overall is really good, only a couple minor things that I would improve. Make sure you check out the full review for this for more info as well as typing tests. Now, y'all already know how I feel about the Magic Mouse. And if you don't know how I feel about it, it is a spawn from hell that deserves the death penalty for its transgressions against our society. I hate it with a passion. Oh yeah, and the charging cable that comes in the box is really high quality, and I just like how everything, fits the color theme of whatever iMac you get. My iMac came in the blue color, so everything has that nice light blue touch. It's a pretty nice detail. Next up is the M1 chip, and honestly, it's really good. It's extremely snappy and smooth, so if you don't like waiting for things like applications to open and things like that, you're gonna love this chip. But at the same time, I think that the crazy benchmarks and the numbers really do kind of put it out of perspective in terms of real world situations. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then definitely check out the video where I compare it against my 2015 MacBook Pro, because it'll surprise you. This FaceTime HD camera is the one thing that after all this time still blows me away. Like the detail, the clarity, look, this dust is so fine, yet it's so crisp on the camera. It's nuts, and its ability to properly expose no matter the condition makes this honestly probably one of the best cameras for video calls. So right now I'm lighting myself from my studio light, the one that I use for recording all my videos, but check out when I switch to my daylight room light. That is not at all ideal for recording situations. So the only thing that's lighting me right now is the screen itself. Honestly, I think it even looks better than when I had the studio light here. This camera is nuts, and you can also hear how the microphone on this iMac sounds in case you want to use it for Zoom calls, anything like that. Test 1 2 3. This is how it looks and how it sounds. Next up are the speakers, and over the last few months I've been using like earbuds and headphones, and when you put on the speakers in this iMac, you can definitely hear the difference. There's a lot of clarity, the bass is there, and the volume gets extremely high. All around, it's dope. So in terms of the best features of the 24-inch M1 iMac, firstly, I've got to say that I just love the build and design overall. I think that it definitely does, modernize it, but still keeps it iconic. And the second thing is, of course, M1, because honestly, there's no beating the fact that it is just insanely fast. Honestly, I really like everything about this iMac, and the only real drawback that I can think of
that deserves the death penalty for its transgression.
So in terms of the price, the base model M1 iMac comes in at just around $1,300 American or $1,600 Canadian. Now that is a lot, but if you're upgrading from a really old iMac, then you can definitely make the justification. Now, if you've liked this review, make sure you check out this playlist with all my other tech related content. Subscribe, and thanks for watching.